He already said, didn't he say this thing was in your bedroom?
Yeah. That's why he said, looks like a hoe. That's why I was wondering.
I mean, it's...
What's going on in Ross's bedroom?
Welcome to the Beat Around the Bench podcast about woodworking, good times, and general jackassery. With your hosts, Jess of Jess Build It, Colton of Cold Crate, and Ross of RNC Woodworking and Designs. You can find us all on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. In this week's episode, we have Leigh and Mush from the Storytellers Tavern Podcast. They do a deep dive into robotics. They talk about teaching the next generation of makers. And Jess talks about big boxes and tool trivia. All of that and more is coming right up on this episode of the Beat Around the Bench podcast. Now for episode 101, Stone Temple Poplar. For today's guest, we're joined by Leigh of the Tinker Teacher and Mush from Maker Mush. And they're both from the Storytellers Tavern Podcast. Two men so infamous, the circus ran away to join them.
Very nice.
Oh, that's fitted. The circus, yes.
Gentlemen.
Seems about right.
How you been? I haven't seen you guys since Workbench Con, so almost 2 months now. How are you?
It's crazy.
We've been great. We actually rolled across Colt a couple weeks ago in Houston.
Yeah.
That was super fun. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point, but it's been kind of balls to the wall. And that's a pilot term, so we can still keep that PG-13.
Yeah, we're good.
But yeah, it's been pretty exciting, pretty busy, all those things. It seems like once Workbench Con kind of goes into the summer, it's just full throttle.
Okay. Same for you, Mush?
Yeah, so we're both teachers, and this is kind of April is the beginning of the end of the year for us, which is at the same time like 2 eye blinks, but it also takes forever. So we're right in the thick of it. We're about halfway between Workbench and the end of the year, which is always a reason to celebrate. But it's been that insanely quick slowness.
So you guys are either in the midst of helping with tech crew for musicals or talent show at the moment, right?
Not so much. No, neither of us are really officially involved in those. I mean, Leigh, you've been on to Rock a Talent Show or two.
I have. Yeah, with that happens. We actually, for the faculty talent show, we did some Turnpike Troubadours this year, which was was pretty fun. But Mush, you're always in the faculty band, and you're also in the pit during the musicals and stuff. Like, you're Mr. Music.
That's true. But all that is behind us now. That's like a January, February thing when time actually makes sense.
Okay. So, gentlemen, obviously, for those of our listeners who may not know you individually or as the Storytellers Tavern, how did you guys come about? Like, what's your overall story?
All right. So I'm going to start with the podcast piece. And if we want to dig into like me as a person later, that's cool too. But
definitely
the podcast, the Storytellers Tavern came about at Maker Camp, and something that I think your podcast came about at Workbench Con. So like sometimes these cockamamie, concepts are born over a campfire late at night or whatever. But Mush and I were at those events, and we really wanted to give something back to the community, because that community gives us so much. Mm-hmm. And kind of what we were unpacking was the fact that there's the best part of those nights are the buffoonery that happens around the campfire at, let's just say, I'm going to say 1, but I actually mean 3:30, or, downstairs in the lobby. And, you have no business being awake at that point, but you're meeting people and you're having these awesome conversations with, your new best friend. And
that's
you kind of get into
time
it.
To shine.
It's an immediate connection. You're already on the same field. Like, yeah.
Right. And we realized that, I'm a wood turner, and could I bring my wood turning skills to that party? Sure. Mush and I do a ton of woodworking, digital fab, 3D printing, laser cutting, all CNC work, all that stuff. But there is 20 people that are better than us at all of those things when you go to a Workbench Con or a Maker Camp. So we thought that the one thing that we could bring to that community was preserving some of those stories from the campfire, and kind of recording those and archiving those of, people like this last Maker Camp. We got to sit down with Jimmy DiResta and Derek from Malden in Jimmy's leather shop the night as Maker Camp was starting. And that was a very special moment where we got to like have, almost 45 minutes with those two incredible individuals and just talk about life and talk about school and talk about making and talk about all those things. And very few people will get that opportunity to spend 45 minutes with Jimmy and Derek in the same room, just shooting the breeze. And so what we wanted to do was just kind of preserve those and archive those and then share those with the larger maker community so that if you didn't get to Maker Camp or Workbench Con, if you wanted to be there and you couldn't be there for whatever reason, you can go back and you can kind of experience some of those, some of that buffoonery that happens, late at night around the campfire. And it's not really about the clamps you use or the glue you use. It's more about kind of what's in here in the heart of the makers and what makes them tick and what makes them make, if that makes sense.
So I wanted to bounce off of Mush because obviously, Leigh, you just alluded to the best stuff happens at between 1 and 4 in the morning around a campfire. Is there any law for you guys similar to Vegas that what happens in those hours stays in those hours, or does everything get aired out?
Well, for the last 2 years, going to bed at the 1 o'clock,
yes.
only because that's where I am in the season of my life. So I get what I think is a full recap of what happened the next day, but I don't know, Leigh, anything I should know?
No, and I think that there's a difference between the stories that you want to share and just the things that, are just going to happen amongst friends and the private conversations and, things. I don't want to say, things are different when you turn on a mic, but you guys know this. The buffoonery that happens before a show or after a show is a little bit different. And that's why but being able to have those conversations while the microphone's on and share those things. So for example, this year at Maker Camp, we had Jesse Combs' brother and Tamara Robinson from Mythbusters, and like we got to sit in the martini bar and just unpack life and talk about how special Jesse Combs was as a human and what she meant to the maker community. And the best moments happen when you forget that the microphone's on.
Absolutely.
You don't realize that you're sitting in front of a mic, and that's why we also try and do everything on site. Which, if the people that are listening have never heard our thing, we don't do anything in a studio. Nothing against this vibe. This vibe is awesome. But everything we do is always on site, so that we're kind of, in the moment, whether it's pouring down rain at Maker Camp or whether we're in a big ballroom at Workbench Con, like it's all about the vibe of the people being together.
Okay.
Right on. How long y'all been doing it? The Storytellers Tavern?
Fall 22 was the first Maker Camp. And then all the workbenches and Maker Camps since then. I think we're in episode close to 70 at this point.
70?
Heck yeah. So. I'm still trying to get Ross and Jess over to Maker Camp.
Yeah.
Three of us are workbench caught but I don't know. I love both of them.
It's magical.
I don't know if it'll happen this year. I think I can maybe do it next year.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
This year we've got stuff going on, but next year.
Your Tampa blood might be a little warm for East Durham.
No. I was born in Denver. I love the cold. And my wife's from Jersey. I mean, I love it. I like this year we have a big thing going. Last year we had a big thing. Like there's always something towards the end of the year, especially with my kids and like Christmas and all that stuff. So.
Kids, Christmas, all the things that don't matter in life. Come on, man. Get your priorities in check, buddy.
Big money on all that stuff. But it sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like a lot of fun.
So let me ask this. You guys have done multiple years of both shows or shows at both events. Have you had a favorite out of the 70 plus episodes that you've done? One that stands out that you're like, if anybody's going to listen to us, is there an episode that kind of cements it, like an album for a band, like that showcases what they were all about?
You want to go, Mush?
Yeah, so I've got two, and whichever one I don't do, you could talk on the other. First year at Workbench Con, we got a chance to sit down with Jess Crow, who we knew. Leigh and I met Jess. It was 90 seconds into our first time at Maker Camp, and we just wandered through the front gate, and right to our left was the Total Boat tent, and it looked inviting. We had no idea how awesome Total Boat was, but we decided to check it out anyway. And inside the tent was Jess Crow doing her epoxy thing, and we had no context really for like the amazing artistry and talent that she had. She was just a human that said, "Hey, welcome to this family." And instantly, I don't remember if it was a literal or a figurative hug, but like she swept us into the community with open arms, and we realized the vibe that was going to be there, which was awesome. And we hung out with her a couple of times that weekend and knew her through that. Then we got to sit down with her on the podcast at Workbench the following spring. And neither Leigh nor I knew her story. Not many people had. It's not something that she had spoken on a lot. So getting to connect with her like this close and hear her story was probably the first episode where the buffoonery was. It was the fun spirit was there. The buffoonery wasn't.
Yeah.
And it was just this really, really special moment of human connection on top of a human or amazing story from an incredible human. And that sort of all overlapped in a really unexpected way that hit hard. And I think does a really good job of being an example of what we're trying to share as far as the stories behind the humans within the community.
Okay.
And,
how about you, Leigh?
And Mush, I'll say one more thing. Like, we didn't talk about epoxy at all. Like it
Really?
had nothing to do with like, how Jess Crow makes the cool things that she makes. It had to do with like her as a human and her journey as a person. And it was really special. And it was one of those episodes that, as Rex Kruger said, you needed to smoke a cigarette after it was done. You just didn't, you were done. You took a deep breath and you walked away from it, and you were like, gosh, it really felt like we were doing something special to be able to preserve that. And like Mush said, she doesn't share that a lot, and it was heavy and it was deep, and it was exactly what we're going for, because it felt like it was 2:00 in the morning around a campfire, and it was special friends having a special conversation.
That's awesome. What was Leigh? Do you have a favorite episode, or is that your favorite as well?
Yeah, I've got about 70 of them, but
okay.
So I'd already talked about it, but the one with Jesse Combs' brother Kelly was really special this last year. But since Mush went kind of on the heavy one, I'll take it the other direction. And this year at Maker Camp, we actually got to go with Lindsay Woodbrain and her husband, No Bad Tides, and Eric, and we got to go over to the tasting lab. And what's cool about all of that was Lindsay was our first ever episode. And like she's, her personality is larger than life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's stadium size.
Yes.
If there was one person that could be the first episode of our podcast, it was Lindsay. And like, she kicked it off in the right way. And, we didn't know what the heck we were doing. And we're just like, we set up some mics in the pavilion at Maker Camp. We're like, let's do this thing. And she's like, I'm in, let's go. So then 50 episodes later, she's rejoining us. It was our first kind of repeat guest. Mm-hmm. And we had her and her husband, and we were at the tasting lab. And that's a cool story because they're a little restaurant in East Durham when we're trying to figure out how we're going to pay for all this stuff. And we called up our friends at the tasting lab and we're like, hey, we're doing this podcast, right down the road from Maker Camp. And, our buddies at Tasting Lab were like, we're in. Like, what do you guys need? And, we'll give it to you. So we put, I think I have my cup from that one there. I'm not going to stop talking to find it, but, we put their logo on the side of the cup. And so then we got, 50 episodes later to return from, to return to the scene of the crime of our first sponsor, our first guest, and talk about Lindsay and Eric, and our buddy Eric Roberts from Jarvis Boards. And he's another just kind of legend of this community who has been kind of roped into all this madness. And it was that was all about the family. Like, that was all about us being together and the special connections that are formed within this maker community. And I felt like it wasn't something where you wanted to cry afterwards. It was just something that was really special. And we laughed and smiled as we drove away, feeling like that was kind of a cool coming of age.
That's awesome
episode.
Nice. When you were saying tasting lab, I was like, man, I must have missed that at Maker Camp. I was picturing some sort of like Tyson food testing facility. I was like, I just took it for granted, I guess. It's a restaurant.
Cole, we'll take you there this year, because when you need a break from like the madness that is Maker Camp, you drive like 10 minutes away, and it's a little kind of cool boutique. eatery, burger place, craft beers, craft cocktails, and you just sit and you get to meet some really rad people and kind of dive into that community. It's a really neat place.
That's awesome.
Heck yeah.
Well, speaking of obviously getting the most out of your guests and learning more about them, we do a segment when we have guests on that's kind of rapid fire trivia, completely no nonsense. There is no wrong answers, and they are kind of off the wall questions, and you get 3 minutes to answer as many of them as possible. But Jess, how do you want to do this, being that there's 2 of them?
How about I have 40 questions. We can do Leigh can 40. Do for the first 20.
No one's ever made it. They're all 40. No.
And see how long it takes him to do the first 20, and then Mush.
How about we do 10 apiece and go back and forth?
Okay.
Sure.
That way they each have a chance.
They can do it as a duo.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So, gentlemen, you will have 3 minutes to answer the questions, and just pound out as many of them as you can. We'll keep track of how many you get, but I believe 28 is the standing record right now.
Standing record.
So, you gentlemen ready? Any questions?
Always ready.
There is no right answer. There is no wrong answer, but there is a wrong answer. All right. Are you ready?
So, who's answering first?
Why don't you guys just go back and forth? Like Leigh, you guys.
At least first.
You go first.
Yeah.
All right. Well, 3 minutes starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
If you had to live inside a cartoon, which one would you pick?
The Smurfs.
Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or 1 horse-sized duck?
100 duck-sized horses.
If you could swap your arms for anything else, what would you choose?
Flippers.
If your life was a breakfast cereal, which cereal would it be and why?
Lucky Charms, because it's all good, but some parts are gooder.
Okay. What's your favorite smell that you secretly wish was a candle scent?
Pork barbecue.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Ooh. If animals could talk, which one do you think would be the rudest?
Oh, shoot. Goose. Canada goose.
Okay. Oh, yeah. What conspiracy theory do you low-key wish was true?
The Denver airport being a hidden...
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I need to say.
Okay, if you could have one useless power, what would it be?
Oh, I could jump for like an extra second and a half longer than expected.
Oh, there you go. How many chickens would it take to overwhelm you in a fight?
1.
What's the weirdest thing you'd buy if you suddenly became a billionaire?
Like all the flavors of bubblegum, just to see which one was worst.
Oh, there you go. Ooh. If peanut butter wasn't called peanut butter, what should it be called?
Gooey brown stuff.
Okay. Would you rather sneeze glitter or fart confetti?
Sneeze glitter.
Okay. What's something mildly annoying that you'd like to ban forever?
People that vote for the wrong person.
Okay. Ooh. If your pet could suddenly talk, what's one thing you're afraid they'd say about you?
Pass.
Is that about peanut butter? If you had to wear one costume every day for a year, which would you choose?
You're still up, Mush.
Yeah,
okay,
Mush, you're still
Darth Vader costume.
Nice. Would you rather be permanently itchy or permanently sticky?
Permanently sticky.
If aliens visited Earth tomorrow, what embarrassed human habit would be hardest to explain?
Sneezing glitter.
Yeah. If you were arrested without explanation, what would your friends assume you did?
Public nudity.
Okay. What's one thing that's popular but you absolutely refuse to try?
Publishing my own TikTok dances.
Okay. What would your vanity license plate say if it had to embarrass you?
20 seconds.
Pass.
Okay. Would you rather always talk like Yoda or breathe like Darth Vader?
Talk like Yoda.
Okay. Which mystical creature would you have as a roommate?
Double horn unicorn.
Time.
All right. Very good. 23, and then they missed it. They passed 2, I think.
So I'm seeing 20 is the final answer.
All right.
Yeah, very good.
So
I think I got like 13 when I did it. Yeah, not a ton.
This is very good.
That was good. I like the callback. Sneeze and glitter.
Well
Sneeze,
done.
glitter, or fart confetti. I'm more interested about this one about the vanity license plate. I really have to think about that one. You would be embarrassed, but Ass Man. I mean, that was on.
That's always a good one. Yeah.
Hey, so I got a question about y'all's shops. If you want to dive into those,
Yeah.
So Ross here has an X-Carve, or he has the potential for a Frankenstein X-Carve 1,000 millimeter, right? He has like
it's basically the almost 4 foot by 4 foot. It's like 38 by 38, something like that.
Yeah,
it's whatever the big old X-Carve is. Basically, there's a high school that my buddy works for a couple towns away that is very, very well off, and they were getting rid of 3 X-Carves. And yeah, that's right, because they got new other upgraded ones. And they were like, do you want these? And they gave them to him. And he was like, I don't know what to do with these. You want them? And they're basically the frames and rails. But between all 3 of them, I think I can put together one full machine and then be able to operate it. So,
Nice.
Right. And then Jess has starts with an A, your laser. I can't remember what's the name of your laser. Jess?
Oh, I haven't even used it in forever.
Well,
I have a laser too.
It's a 4-letter word. It starts with A. I can't remember it.
Aeon?
No.
Aeon laser?
No.
A 4-letter word that starts with A.
It could be.
How many are there?
Yeah. I can't remember.
I think it starts
But y'all teach children to use CNC equipment, right?
It's true.
And
I'm
sure
give a little. Can we give a little?
Like, how is that? Like this, like from like the safety aspect all the way to horsing around. Like,
why don't we
you have
start?
to keep a strict like regiment in there, or what?
Let me back up a little bit, because people are like, you're just teaching kids how to use CNCs. Like, basically, Mush and I run makerspaces in a JK through 12. Independent school. So I've been at the school for 24 years. Mush, you've been there for?
This is year 8.
Yeah. So I started as a technology coordinator, like just teaching kids how to do typing and PowerPoints and all that fun stuff. And then those things basically turned into robots. Robots turned into 3D printers. 3D printers turned into CNC machines. CNC machines turned into lasers. Lasers turned into power tools. 10 years ago, we have been kind of some of the front runners, I'm proud to say, for like makerspace education. And so now Mush and I have 2 separate makerspaces on one campus. We have a third one with a lower school. So we actually have a colleague that does JK through 4th grade. So she's teaching makerspace stuff to the littlest of the littles, like 4-year-olds.
Hold on. When you say
9-year-olds,
JK, do you mean like preschool?
Yeah, like the kids that are this big.
Junior kindergarten, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they're not using the chainsaw that Colt got this weekend at the swap meet yet. But yeah, so we have 3 separate spaces: the lower school, the middle school, and the high school. We started it in the middle with the middle school space. We're in about year 11, and this was before educational maker spaces were, kind of the thing that happened about 4 or 5 years later.
Yeah.
We were in that space for a year or 2. And then I hired Mush to kind of, take that to the next level as far as the high school space. And now the 2 of us boast about 7,000 square feet of makerspace facility on one campus. He serves the entire high school. I've got, about 300 kids in my middle school that are coming through and using all those tools. So, Cole, to answer your original question, I just felt like people needed some context.
That was great. That's perfect.
We keep it pretty buttoned up. We've got pretty serious, safety standards as far as letting the kids use the tools. Everything is tiered as far as letting the kids know that, like, you have your level 1 tools. Those are the ones that'll cause you to need a Band-Aid. We have the level 2 tools, which are the ones that'll cause you to go to the nurse. And there's the level 3 tools that are the ones that'll, send you to the hospital. So that's kind of the way we do things, and keeping kids safe is important. But we also, you guys know us well enough to know that we have kind of a vibe with kids that's going to make sure that they're having fun. And I have a school down the road, and I really respect this school, but there's a sign on the door that says "Quiet Engineers at Work," and that is the last thing I would ever have in my space. It makes me like cringe whenever I see that sign, because I've got, about 350 vinyl records in the back of my room, and the kids come on and, they come in and they find their favorite Lionel Richie record and they spin it. The Killers, Aretha Franklin, what was playing, AC/DC Back in Black is like kind of just on the constant rotation. For some reason, and I think it's because it's got the picture on it, the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack from the first movie.
That's a great soundtrack, by the way.
It really is, but it's always on. That's like the first go-to record. So yeah, we have a good time. We have a lot of fun.
Well, let me ask
keeping it cool with the vinyls too. That's got to be the favorite class out of all of them. But Ross, what do you got?
So I actually have a 2-part question for both of you. If you span all the way from basically preschool through high school, and you see kids using tools of all the different types, number one, which of the tools would you say has the highest learning curve or steepest learning curve? And then number two, what of the systems, if you will, between the 3D printer, the CNC, the laser, or the power tools, or even the hand tools, which is the one that you guys are continuously blown away by what the kids are making on that, or with that template, if you will? You
want to start, Mush, or you want me to go?
Go ahead. Let me think on it.
So the hardest one for me, the term that I like to use with my kids coming in the room is lassos. So I'm talking about 10-year-olds coming into my shop. Those have the attention span of about 2.5 seconds, and I might be exaggerating by about 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, I have a 9 and 11-year-old here at home, and I understand completely.
You know what I'm saying. So unless I show those kids something really fast, really cool to get them hooked, I'm going to lose them, and they're going to go to recess, because that's a lot of my open shop time is during lunch and recess. And they're going to be like, "You're boring," and I don't care what music is on the turntable. I'm going to go out and play with the ball with my friends. So honestly, like the laser cutter, and I'm going to signal out a tool I don't use anymore, but the Glowforge was one of those gateway drugs that I would use on a regular basis, because I could teach a kid how to laser engrave something in the better part of 2.5 minutes. I could have them on an application doing something all cloud-based and have them engraving something, and boom, they're doing it. So now, that was 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and the Glowforge ecosystem, we're not going to go into that for lots of reasons. But now we're using Xtool, and more importantly, Phantom. And Phantom's lasers are amazing, and we've got Xtool stuff, and it's so accessible, and the kids are making amazing stuff with it. So the lasers are kind of the easiest lasso that I have on there. Mush, you want to go with that one?
Yeah, so in the high school, it's a little bit different for my space. It's primarily an elective class you can take. It's an arts credit, so technically a visual art. And so we go through a pair of 4-station boot camps throughout the year. It's not this is not creative. You're not coming up with your own designs. You're learning this tool, which is an interesting kind of needle to thread in an ecosystem where if I'm teaching an arts class, I got to consider creativity and artistic principles. But as far as complexity goes, the trickiest tool itself is Adobe Illustrator, only because it's so versatile. You can throw it in a CNC, you can throw it in a laser cutter, and the kids just want to be able to drop stuff and go, and they can. But to teach them beyond just grab a coaster and make it into a star now, teaching the patience of learning how to do the kind of digital preparation part is fine. I mean, they'll figure out the hardware part. They will figure out what buttons to press and what is too much or not enough laser and what kind of bit they should be using for CNC. But as far as getting their idea from their brain to whatever it can first touch physically is the trickiest part for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
As far
you guys
as
use Lightburn at all?
So we're starting to, we're digging into that now. For a while, we've both been in
it's one of the easier
ecosystems.
Programs I've ever used.
Awesome.
It's pretty good. That Atom Stack is what I had. Atom Stack.
That's where it was. Adam. That's where I was thinking of.
4 letters. Atom Stack.
Well, Adam. Yeah.
So can I do another answer to that question?
You can.
So the thing that like over the last couple of years, and this relationship was actually born at Workbench, power carving has by far become kind of like one of my favorite things to do with kids because the safety is easy. Like you don't, unless you are almost trying to hurt yourself with some of the cuts all burrs, like you have a really good chance of having a really good experience with those. And it's affordable. The products are great and the kids can make really cool stuff really quick, whether it's a Swedish butter knife, whether it's a spoon, whether it's just, a picture or whatever. Those cuts all burrs are amazing. And now, I have the kids using the mini grinders from Arbortech. And those are scary. Like, and when I first saw those, I was like, I don't know if that's something I'm going to put in a middle school kid's hands. And thinking about like some of the 14-year-old kids that are, physically mature to be able to handle an angle grinder, it was like maybe. And then, over the last year, I've been getting more of those into my shop. And those mini carvers are a precision instrument. And I have 10-year-olds using those mini carvers and doing some really rad stuff with them. So, Mush and I are both digital fab nerds with the 3D printers and the lasers and the CNCs. But if we're just talking about making sawdust, the cuts all burrs and the power carving tools are really, really fun.
So I'm actually bidding out a project right now where somebody wants me to make a wooden version of a metal cast iron base that's like arced and formed, and I'm going to need to power carve it, and that'll be my first time doing it. So I'm going to have to hit you up, Leigh, because that's not something I normally do. So it'll be interesting.
Show me the scope of the project, and I will put you in touch. I will either send you the tools or put you in touch with the people to get you what you need. And
thank you.
Would love to kind of go down that power carving journey with you. It sounds fun.
Yeah, awesome. Oh yeah, me and Ross did your class at Workbench Con.
We did. My 11-year-old daughter, when I came home with the Swedish butter knife, was like, "Oh my God, so fun!" And she stole it and she just started cutting butter left and right. Yes. And she's like, I don't want any butter. I just want to cut butter. And so, yeah. And so we just had like pads of butter all over the place. So we had to put like a limit on how much she could cut at one time, but she loves it.
It's a functional tool, isn't it?
It is. Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. Oh, hey, to bring it back, remember when we talked about those tables that were going to be carved at a wedding, Ross?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I talked to the guy. They want to keep it with like handles, kind of like you would like if you're at the Dixie Chicken doing it. So I don't think they want the power stuff. But
lame-os.
We were considering doing the, I don't know, whatever y'all were in Houston for y'all's robotics meet. We were talking about it. But how did that meet go, by the way? Did y'all take it home?
Awesome. No, but that wasn't the point. I mean, there were 32,000 teams that started this season, and
did you say 32,000?
Lego robotics teams across the world. And we were there with the top 200 of them.
That's impressive as all hell.
That's like what we were trying to really impress upon the kids. Like, we're here. It doesn't matter. I mean, we want to do as well as we can this weekend, but it doesn't matter how the weekend goes because we're here. We made it. And this, like, getting here is the celebration. Whatever happens after this is just sprinkles on frosting on cake.
That's awesome. Where did you guys end up, if you don't mind me asking?
100th place.
That's top 100 in the world is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Out of 32,000, we'll take it all day long.
Absolutely.
So what did win?
So the interesting thing is that kids, our kids have to turn 14 the year that the competition starts. So that's in the United States. Internationally, kids have to turn 18 the year that it starts. So everywhere outside of the U.S. So you have our kids that are like 8th graders competing against kids that are 19.
That are driving. And military.
Right, and bringing their kids to the competition. And so, like, one of my favorites was a couple of years ago, we were at one of these world-class competitions, and the team from Israel was there. And there was this kid that was 19, and he had the full beard and the flowing hair, and he looked just like Jesus. And, he's, like, just greeting us all. And my kid is, like, sitting there next to him, up to his hip, and these kids are, like, competing against the same thing. So, like, some of these teams from Brazil or South Korea or New Zealand, like the team from New Zealand is sponsored by Caterpillar, which, you know, is kind of funny when you're like, I was in the mood to buy a $5 million harvester, and let me watch this robotics team and maybe I'll be in the market. Like, I'm not sure exactly where they're going, but
well, go ahead and finish. Yeah, it's engineers. They're tapping into people and then getting them into the internship program and creating engineers around the world.
Right. So these teams are like Mush and I we have a really cool group of kids that do some really, really special stuff. But a lot of these international teams are backed by probably $50,000 to $100,000 worth of corporate backing that have, you know, teams of engineers that are helping them and assisting and mentoring. And that's not our vibe. Our vibe is getting a bunch of cool kids in the room and building some robots and doing some rad stuff to make the world a better place.
Do you design all that stuff in a Lego like Technic program, or do you just do it?
What we do is just kind of slap it together and see what works. And I mean, that's the fun of it is that sort of problem. So there's like two phases to it. There's the problem solving of coming up with a good robot. And then there's the problem solving of like the yearly game that they come up with. So it's neat to see them think at both the levels of like, what can do everything, but now when I need to do this, how do I do that?
Gotcha.
Yeah, what a core memory too.
Skills. Good.
For all the kiddos, what a good core memory, you know, coming to Houston and getting to see all that.
So I've got a cool story. Like, so the kids have a innovation project that goes along with it, and this is going to tie back into the makerspace. But 2 years ago, we were having this big arts festival outside of my room, and there's 500 people, and we're doing power carving. And this was kind of some of my first forays into power carving. And I had a kid walk up with a cane, and he's just kind of making his way over, and I've got angle grinders and shaping wheels and stuff. And I'm like, oh, blank, what am I going to do with the blind kid? And I actually had a friend, I can't take credit for this, but my friend Pam grabbed that kid and put an angle grinder in his hand and took him over to this big log that I had standing up. And what I was watching this really amazing moment. And should I have videoed it? Yes. Am I glad I didn't? Yes, because it's all up here and I didn't miss the moment trying to go through my phone or my GoPro. But Pam and this kid had this moment where they were touching the wood and feeling the wood. And I realized at that moment, like, that art, power carving, and like some of the stuff we do with wood is not about a visual. It can be just as much about a tactile feel. And so at that point, we got to helping these kids with, with burrs and with shaping wheels. And that kid was over there, like, doing all sorts of wood carving. And then we moved to actually having power carving classes for blind kids. And Jonathan Katz-Moses has been helping us and supporting some of those classes and giving us some stuff to pass on through his Woodworkers with Disabilities Fund. He's been giving us some equipment to pass on to the blind woodworkers. And so we've been able to have some of those kids. We're actually, Mush, you don't know this, but I'm working with Allie to try and set up another workshop for the summer for blind kids to come in and do some more woodworking in the shop. And you got to love the look on the face of my business office when they were talking about insurance. And I'm like, hey, yeah, I want to bring a bunch of blind kids in to play with power tools. They're like, Leigh, you're an idiot. But it's really impactful and it's really special. So back to the robots, the kids saw all of this going. And last year, they talked to some of these kids that they'd been working with through the wood carving stuff. And they said, what's a problem you have? What's something that you'd like to do that you can't really do? And they're like, we like to act, but we don't know how to use our face. They don't know how to act surprised or act angry or act happy, like, because they're not in these environments where they're watching, Ross, Colt, and Jess, use their faces and make all that stuff. So they've never been trained on how to use their face. So if blind people, they're always very stoic. They don't use their face a lot. Yeah. So our team partnered with a software security firm out of Sweden that did facial recognition for banking and financial services. Yeah. And they rewrote the code so that it would actually give audible cues when the kids would smile or when they would frown. And they built basically a facial training device so that blind kids could learn how to use their face for theatrical purposes.
That's incredible.
That was part of that. That was part of the robotics competition. And that got us fourth in the world. Or top, there wasn't really places, but when the kids wrote that, it was top 4 in the world. And the coolest thing about that is the kids stopped caring about winning or losing or what was good or what wasn't. Like, they realized that they were doing something very, very special to help a community that could use it. And they didn't give a crap. That's PG-13, right?
There you go.
About the competition. They just wanted to make the world a better place through, their makerspace, and which was pretty cool. And it all started with a blind kid walking up and grabbing an angle grinder, which was pretty neat.
Awesome.
So,
Man,
absolutely stunning. Like, that is exactly what making should be about, helping others. And that's what this community is all about. And I actually want to know, from your perspective, as you're teaching future generations, I know for a lot of us in our generations, we were told, don't go into the trades, don't go into, basically go into college, get a job, take on the mortgage, do all that kind of stuff. And the trades have really suffered over the last 20 to 30 years. Do you see kids who are now in your classes, anywhere starting from pre-K up, or do they have interest because of makerspaces like yours in going into the trades? Or do you see, like, where do you see it going?
Mush, I feel like I've been talking a lot. You want to handle this one?
Yeah. So I see a lot of the high school kids, and I see them over the course of 4 years. And usually the first years are like gung-ho about makerspace and getting to do hands-on stuff. And then junior year, they say, well, all right, probably at a point where I should be thinking more about like college bound. What do I want to do? Because just about all of the kids that we teach wind up going into college. But then senior year, more often than not, I'll see them sneaking back into the makerspace and say, well, I thought I might take this class. And I have seen a bit of a shift of kids who are doing more stuff with their hands. Sometimes, not usually, as it relates to the kids that I see going on to college, but every once in a while there's a fun little shift. One of the best woodworking students I've had so far, he's incredible. He's made a lot of pieces for our makerspace, and then he's come back since he went to college 2 years ago and just posted up in the makerspace over the summer and built himself a bed, because that's what you do when you're a rising sophomore in college.
Absolutely.
And he was originally, I think, going into civil engineering. A lot of math, a lot of like computations. Yep. He hated it. So he still wanted to do something that, like, whip smart kid. So he wound up going into medical field, but as an orthopedic surgeon. And I'm convinced it's because it's the closest you can get to woodworking on the human body while still being called.
This is true.
So
there are some carving tools in the dentist's toolbox. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So as far as trades specifically, I haven't seen as much in just my little slice of the world. But as far as embracing it and understanding it more and respecting it more, I definitely think we've seen a lot of that mindset shift where we are.
I think that in general is becoming more and more a thing, because student debt's so out of control, and college is so expensive. Not that there's anything wrong with college. Like my kids, we've had some serious talks about, like my one daughter wanted to be an interior designer, and I was like, that's an inexpensive school. And I said, the problem is getting the connection. So you need to start interning now. But you could do that and still take college courses at the same time, just about.
Yep.
You can take night classes and a lot of it online. Mike Rowe is big on all of that. There's so many trades. I mean, aircraft, there's a major aircraft mechanic A&P class here in Tampa area. And it's for the best class you can take with avionics, like drones, like the whole thing is $37,000, and you can finish in 18 months.
Wow.
That is nothing. And they're already hire you before you even leave. And they base your hiring on how well you attend school. All it is you need to show up and go to school. That's all you got to do. And it's all certified by the FAA. You immediately go to work. And a lot of these companies, like for windmills and all kind of other stuff, GE hires people, of course, Boeing, and some other military people. That one guy left, he had never done anything, and he moved to They gave him a job the day he moved out to California to start building drones, like the big ones for the Air Force. Cool. So, yeah, like and he's like not in debt. The school was paid for by the time he was done with it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of not everybody wants to be a woodworker, but there's a lot of trades out there.
So let me ask this of you gentlemen, and Jess and Colton, this can go for you as well. Have any of you seen the recent publications that have come out about the new Slate vehicle, the Slate pickup truck that's supposed to come out, I believe, in
I would
a
love
year
to
or
get
two?
it.
Okay, so for those who haven't seen it, Jeff Bezos is one of the investors on this, but he is not the lead on this project. Overall, this is a function over fashion vehicle that is purposely built, and it will come out brand new under $20,000. And the idea is it is unbelievably simple and efficient to build and then to be able to add on to. And it almost looks like if you take off the door, it almost looks like it was 3D printed. Mm-hmm. Like it's kind of like injection plastic molded, and it's supposed to be as strong as something that is a steel vehicle or aluminum, but it is all plastic essentially, and it's an all electric vehicle. And I didn't know if you gentlemen on the teaching side would even look at something like this Slate vehicle and say, how do we do this on our own level with 3D printing? Let's make a scale model of it. Let's do robotics and work on the electric motor. Let's work on the 3D printing to make it. How do we make the different parts? What would you guys do, to make your own setup? And see if you can almost make like an RC version of it. And that way kids can get that technology. Or a go-kart, whatever it is.
Heck yeah.
Make a little side-by-side. That's fine. But I didn't know if you guys
had seen
project.
I just Google searched it. It looks like a little Ranger.
I saw it. Yeah. It's real simple. Well, it's easier to recycle too.
Yep.
And so I feel like
I just put my reservation down for $50. All I needed was $50, and I got my. It's fully refundable. I think it sent me a hat. But yeah, I'm in line now, which is
nice.
Cool. The amount of customizability that's going to be able to be done with this. I wonder if this might be like the EV equivalent of MySpace was for the high school kids in the early aughts, where like you could have a MySpace, or you could teach yourself HTML and have a really good MySpace.
Yes, one so heavily integrated with add-ons that you can't actually load the damn page.
But hey,
you were on the dial-up modem.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what do you guys see as the future kind of moving forward in maker technology or maker space? Like, what is going to be the next thing? Because from our perspective, it's been the 3D printing, the CNCs and stuff like that. What's next for you guys?
So the biggest thing, like we try, at least I'm going to speak as an I'm not going to speak for Mush, but the biggest thing for me is I try and focus less on the tool. And I do consulting around the country. And people get really hung up on the tool. Like what are you using? What kind of brand, what kind of thing? And it's gotta be, if we're going to teach these kids how to make the world a better place and survive in tomorrow's workplace, because you have no idea literally what that looks like. I mean, I was just looking at 3D printed cars that you introduced me to. I've never seen those. Those look really neat, but if they're going to survive, they have to be able to figure stuff out. And that's sitting right above my doorway, in my space. And so I use those tools. I use the CNCs and the 3D printers and the lasers to get kids to be able to think for themselves, and actually advocate for themselves with their own intelligence, to be able to say, I don't need to just ask the old bald guy what the answer is. I'm going to figure it out on my own. I'm going to look at that laser and I'm going to figure it out how to make it work and how to make something really cool. I'm not going to I'm going to go to Google. I'm going to go to YouTube. I'm going to go watch Jimmy DiResta make something amazing and learn from him. And I'm not just going to raise my hand and be like, Mr. Northrup, I don't understand. And so if I can teach kids that, then the tool is irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether it's an angle grinder, a 3D printer, or a CNC machine. They're going to have the ability to walk into whatever the machine is next and be able to do something awesome with it. So the story I use a lot of times is his name is Ben Basil. I don't have favorite students, but he was one of my favorite students. And he graduated from MySpace, that's funny. And he went on and he went to Carnegie Mellon, and he was literally working in the Bill Gates robotics laboratory in the basement of Carnegie Mellon. And he would text me at 2:00 in the morning, just talking about the amazing things he was doing. He was employed by both SpaceX and Microsoft. The year before he graduated from Carnegie Mellon, he moved out to Seattle, and he, in 2017, was leading a team of virtual reality architects redesigning the Microsoft Office environment in VR. I'm pretty
Sounds
sure
like an
that
underachiever. I mean, Jesus.
Right? And super cool kid too, but he was like, I'm pretty sure he was getting paid by the dump truck of money, and they would just like pull up the dump truck of money and like, shovel out all the money for him. But like, I couldn't have taught him, like, so if we just talk about machines, I couldn't have taught him that machine, what I needed to do. And I take zero credit for Ben Basil. Like, that is not something that I'd be like, I did that. Like, I did nothing. I opened a door for him to be able to use his own stuff to think and create. But we were building stuff with popsicle sticks, and we were using hot glue guns. And this was in 2004, 2005. But that was the gateway so that he could have the skill set when he was not just a virtual reality architect, but leading a team of virtual reality architects. He had the skill set to say, I don't know how, and to use Mush's word, yet. And he could figure that out. And like, if we can empower kids with that tool, like, and yes, I'm getting weird and deep on you, but you asked for what is the tool that these kids need. I would say the tool is to be able to figure stuff out and be able to think for themselves and be able to learn what these machines that we're putting in front of them, learn how to do that.
I think the biggest problem with kids right now is that they're afraid of failure. Like they've got to be able to do it, and it's got to be right the first time. And I got to get it right now. And if I don't do it, then this isn't for me. And I'm a failure, or this, whatever the case is. And I've only learned by screwing it all up. On my own,
and that's why it's a lot of fun to do my classes, because there will be kids who come in and say, like, is this the right way? I said, I don't know. And they are kind of flabbergasted. They shouldn't be after coming from Leigh, but like they aren't used to their teacher saying either I don't know or like that's wrong and it's okay. So, I mean, that is such an important part of what we're trying to do. And it's really hard to grade on that, which is why I kind of regret sometimes that I'm like teaching a class, because I have to grade on your ability, like on your resilience, on your creativity and like on your problem solving. So we spin it around in ways that make sense and like make kids excited to try it more. But I mean, that's it. As we're going into the tools, it's the creativity, the problem solving, and the resilience that are the most important parts of what we do.
There's no failures. There's only iterations to success. That
unless you give up.
Now, conversely to what's next, do you guys ever take kids way back to, hey, we're going to build something out of hand tools, and you got to know how to use these first? Or what's your thought process there?
Not as a prerequisite, but as an experience and like getting a different sense of empathy for like, oh, this is how it was made. Absolutely. Like I've had kids that, with the CNC is right there, but let's print out a template and see how we can do with a hand router. So it's not because they can't, but not because it's better, not because you like need to pass this gauntlet, but because having those two perspectives is better than just having one or the other.
Absolutely.
So, you guys know my buddy Rex?
Yes.
Are you guys friends? Okay.
Rex
so
Cougar.
his book, this was a rabbit hole I went down a couple years ago, and I was like, to your point, I was like, darn it, I'm going to teach these kids like traditional woodworking tools, and I'm going to have some fun with it. And I really wanted to do that. And I literally, like, I use this as a manual, and I bought all of these tools. And I actually, we have a lake house up in Virginia, and I took them all to the lake, and I was like, darn it, I'm going to do this. And I quickly realized that for the skills, for the ages that I teach, if I tried to get them to use a hatchet or a handsaw, I was going to lose them really quick. There'd be 3 or 4, and I hate to say this, I hate to say it, but there'd be 3 or 4 boys that would be really into chopping something with a hatchet, but I would lose every girl, and I would lose every like kid that wants to, like every jock, every kid that like thinks that is not the space for them. Yeah. I would lose them really fast. And it's so unfortunate because I agree with everything that Rex says, and I love kind of his style and his mojo. Yeah. But I realized that a 10-year-old is going to, in today's TikTok world, is going to lose interest so fast because they're so used to just the doom scroll of having that immediate gratification that that's like, I had a girl using a pole saw today, and she's one of my best makers, Sadia Mush. She was in there, she was working on a dog bed, and the right tool was the pull saw because she had to get this nice straight cut. And I gave it to her, and she came back to me about 6 minutes later. She's like, this is taking a really long time. And she was polite and she was kind, and her cut was beautiful. And I was like, I know. So we shifted to a jigsaw, and she was done in the next 15 seconds. But I felt that her frustration, and I wonder if Rex will ever listen to this and be like, darn it, you should have made her finish, with the correct tool. But I went in the direction of trying to make sure that she stayed engaged, and not frustrated, rather than getting her to use the right tool. So I don't know.
That's a very interesting take on it, because, for instance, when I went to Colton's shop in Houston, Colton comes from the CNC background. I come from more of the hand tools background. And I was like, Colton, I'm going to teach you how to hand cut dovetails. And trying to teach him that, he was like, but it was definitely like a disconnect between the two of us, because I had to learn how to teach somebody that's not used to using those kind of tools how to do it. And for him, it was a point of pride, like, I'm going to figure this out. But on the other side, I felt good teaching him. So it's an interesting mix. That's got to be a tough role for you guys to walk.
It's fun. It's a challenge every day, but at the end of the day, it's our job to keep those kids engaged and excited and all of those things. So I don't know. It's a double-edged saw, if you will.
Yeah,
literally.
So I know you guys are teachers. Jess is the teacher here on this show, and he likes to impart a lot of knowledge on us. Jess, do you have a segment you want to go into while these gentlemen are here?
Sure.
Okay. Which one do you want to do?
Let's. We're gonna have a little history, little tiny bit of history.
All right, here we go.
It's the history.
Pretty good.
Of woodworking.
I feel like every week it gets a little higher.
You're welcome.
Higher key. So I hate to do this, and I know this might be a moi. This is not MDF. Get your finger off the button, Ross. But this is something that, like we were just talking about, people can go out right now. I was trying to convince Colton of it a week before last, I think. You can go out and make money right now if you know how to do just a few things. And these places, especially in the United States and probably in Canada too, and Mexico, I think, from what I've read, can facilitate this. And this week's history is the history of Home Depot and Lowe's.
Okay.
But these guys were just normal Joe Blows. They were just normal Joe Blows, especially the Lowe's people. Right, so Lowe's started in 1921 in North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, where Lucius Smith Lowe opened a general store, straight up. And then he died. His son took it over, Jim, in 1940, and then he partnered with his brother-in-law, Carl Buchan. So after World War II, everybody started building houses, like everybody was in a good mood and all that other stuff. And so they started to shift their stores in 46 towards home improvement. And basically it is where we are now. In 61, they were on the stock exchange. In 2024, there was 1,700 stores. They employed over 300,000 people. Ooh. And even though they lost 3.13% of their revenue, obviously to places like Home Depot and stuff, they still did $83.7 billion.
Oh, is that all?
Wow.
That's all, right? So
sounds like my Etsy store.
In 25, right? So, okay, so now Home Depot. Home Depot is just a little bit different. So there was a guy named Bernie Marcus, and he was a pharmacist, and then he went into like retail management, and he started working for this company called Handy Dan Improvement Center, right? And so he was the CEO of that. It's in California. And then another guy, Arthur Blank, also started working there. He was an accountant. And then he started working in retail, and then he became vice president of finance for Handy Dan Improvement Centers. Then they fired both of them, and they said, screw you, we're going to start our own place. And they got an investor, a guy named Ken Ligon, in 1979 in Atlanta, Georgia. And they opened two 60,000 square foot places in 1979. And now, they employ 475,000 associates. Ooh. They have, they did in 2025, they've gone up 4.48% revenue to $159.5 billion. Also, like one of the top, like, I think 5 companies.
Yeah, they're like a Fortune 5 or Fortune 10 company.
Yeah. Interestingly, I Googled this, like, how many products are in a Home Depot?
At least more.
30 to 40,000 products in each Home Depot, but over 1 million online. So that's a lot of UPCs. That's a lot of things.
A million. Wow.
Yeah.
Million
That's
things.
why their screw section is always depleted and mixed up. Yeah.
I mean, there's still Menards out there. There's still Ace. There's some other places that, people too. Ace has really good screw section, by the way.
Yeah.
They're expensive, but they have everything. And so, I just thought that was interesting. They've made it so that, like, my business makes it very easy. Like, if I don't have something, I'm not necessarily so worried because I know there's always one of these guys around the corner. The prices are okay. I mean, obviously it's better online, but it's not immediately available. They do carry some quality products. But it's interesting from a construction side standpoint is that you see homes built based on what these companies carry, what they can get readily available. You start to you're changing things. Like I remember when they sold those back in, 10 years ago at Home Depot, and now we're taking them out and we're putting this new thing in. They actually change how
they
homes
change
are
what
built
is the builder basic.
Right. Yeah, they do. Like the trim, the deals they make with these trim companies, you see the same trim that they all carry everywhere, like builder grade trim and stuff like that. I think it's interesting. They're a terrible place to buy lumber. They're a terrible place to buy a lot of things like that for a one-stop shop. I mean, especially oak. I was looking at Poplar the other day, and it's $12 a board foot for a little piece of wood. That's pretty insane when it should be $2. So
they are open a lot more than the mills, though.
This is true. They are also until 10 o'clock at night when I'm having a plumbing problem. Or remember when I came home and my sink was leaking in the middle of the night?
As far as their hardwoods, I feel like it's just there for the first time you buy hardwood, maybe. If you're a sucker. And
it's just which
it's good that they have it to get you through, I've been in a pinch late at night. And
in a pinch. They're good for some things. So anyway, I just thought that would be interesting. I've dealt with them a lot lately because I've redid my bathroom, and I've probably been there about 1,000 freaking times. Oh my God. So, So there you go.
Do you have trivia to go along with that? How did you want to run today? No. I tried. I really tried, and then it was just a few histories, and then it was Menard and Ace and True Value and the question order. So it's a little different, but I think these guys will like it. Some of them are easy, some of them are hard. All right, let's get after it.
Awesome.
Better get on out that knowledge, cause it's trivia time.
All right, so I found this. We've done one a little bit like this. Is this about tools? It's a trivia about tools this week. Tool or fiction. So I might stumble a little bit. But I'm going to ask you questions, and you tell me, is it a tool or is it not a tool? Or maybe I'll say what is it, and then I'll read a list, and then you tell me what tool you think it is. Multiple choice, right?
Here, I'll keep track of it. Have the guests do this show.
Yeah, you're going to do it. You two guys are going to do it this time. Let Colton and Ross's brain have a rest. All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
We'll start with Mush here.
All right.
What is a twybil? TWYBIL.
Pass to Lee.
Lee.
When you buy a bunch of twine, the amount that they charge you.
No. Negative. That is incorrect. Mush, is it a double-ended mortise tool, a medieval woodworking clamp, a Scandinavian carving knife, or a fictional tool?
Do that first one.
It is a double-ended mortise tool.
All right.
It's used in green woodworking, combining chopping and levering functions for mortise work. All right. Moving on. Lee.
Yes.
Which tool is known as a surform? S-U-R-F-O-R-M. Is it a surface forming tool resembling a rasp? Is it a type of sanding block? Is it a fictional tool? Or is it a specialized measuring device?
I'm going to go with B, the sanding block.
Incorrect. It is a surface forming tool resembling a rasp. Is with perforated sheet metal surface used for rapidly removing materials similar to a rasp.
That one seemed too easy for me. Like it seemed like that was the obvious answer, so I took the less.
No trick questions here.
No, Lee, I do the same thing. I do the same thing.
This next one, Ross has one of these next to his bed. What is an adze used for? Oh, shoot. Is it cutting metal sheets, smoothing or carving wood surfaces, measuring angles, or mixing adhesives?
Hit me with those options again, because it wasn't the one I was expecting to say.
No problem. A cutting metal sheets, smoothing or carving wood surfaces, measuring angles, or mixing adhesives.
Man, I think it's for smoothing and carving.
That is correct. A adze is from one of our other trivias, the oldest woodworking tool that we know of. It's kind of like that thing that's got looks like a hoe, and that's what they used to scoop out
What'd you call my wife?
To make a canoe. When they would make the canoe. An adze. Yeah. All right.
He already said, didn't he say this thing was in your bedroom?
Yeah. That's why he said, looks like a hoe. That's why I was wondering.
I mean, it's
what's going on in Ross's bedroom?
He uses this as a back scratcher,
Hey, Lee, don't ask what you don't want to answer.
It's dull. Don't be weird. All right, moving on. Which tool?
This is for Lee.
This is for Lee. Which tool is called a fishtail? Is it a type of chisel with a flared blade? Is it a decorative carving pattern? Is it a fictional tool, or is it a specialized clamp?
A.
That is correct. A fishtail has a flared blade resembling a fish's tail, allowing access to tight corners and detailed work. Moving on. All right, Mush, what is a shaving horse? Don't be dirty.
I know this one.
Is it A, grooming tool for horses? C, I'm messing with you, a mythical creature? B, a woodworking vice operated by foot pressure? Or D, a type of sawhorse?
Man, as much as I wish it was mythical, it's the woodworking device with the foot pressure.
That is right. A shaving horse is a combination of a workbench and a vise operated by foot, used to hold wood securely while shaping it with hand tools. Very good. All right, PG-13. Which tool is known as a bastard file? Is it A?
What's a pederast, Walter?
A file with medium coarseness? Is it B, a counterfeit tool, a fictional instrument, or a ceremonial woodworking tool?
I'm going to go with A.
That's right. It's an easy one. It's a bastard file. A bastard file is a medium level of coarseness, making it suitable for general purpose filing tasks. All right, moving on. I know very much about this. What is a hawk? H-A-W-K, hawk, not the bird. A tool used to hold mortar, a fictional weapon, or a type of woodworking plane?
I'm going to go with the mortar holder.
That is right. I grew up with a hawk and trowel in my hand. I was talking to my dad. It is basically a square, 14 by 14 piece of magnesium with a handle on the bottom of it. And you put your mud on it, and you scoop it off with your trowel. It's called a hawk and trowel. That's how they plastered houses for 200 years. All right, moving on. And by the way, it's magnesium because cement eats aluminum. Which tool is referred to as a bullnose plane? Is it a decorative carving tool, a fictional aircraft, a type of measuring device, or a plane with the blade close to the front for trimming?
The last one.
Yes, it is a plane with a blade close to front for trimming into corners. It's like right on the front. It's once you get one of those, like you'll wonder how you ever live without it.
You use a chisel.
Well, you could use a chisel, but it's like it just gets it so.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right. What is? I had to look this one up. What is a plugging chisel used for? A plugging chisel. Is it for plugging holes in barrels, removing mortar from brickwork, a fictional tool, or for measuring wood moisture?
I'm going to say the brick one.
It is. It is for removing mortar from brickwork. I looked it up. They sell them at Home Depot.
Mush, you're on fire.
Watch out, guys.
Who's winning? Is the Mush winning?
Yes, he is 5-3 at the moment.
Oof. Oh, damn.
All right. Moving on.
Lee.
I'm going to do no multiple choice on this one. This is a weird one.
Oh, snap.
I'm not making up any ground.
What type of chisel is used for cutting hot metal?
Your mother.
Hot metal. I don't know. I don't.
It is a hot cut. How boring is that? A hot cut is a chisel used in blacksmithing to cut hot metal, typically struck with a hammer.
Not to be confused with a hot brown, which is a delicious sandwich from Louisville.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else.
Okay.
No,
a few
Colton.
More.
No.
A few more. What is tool is known as a froe? F-R-O-E. Is it?
It's the opposite of a two.
Mr. Cotter. A type of clamp. A wedge-shaped tool for splitting wood. A measuring device or a fictional tool.
I'm going to go with the measuring device now.
Incorrect. It is a wedge-shaped tool for splitting wood along the grain.
All right.
I thought it was the first tool you grab after you smash your thumb because you throw it across the shop.
Oh, very funny.
That went better in my head.
It's what they use. It's what they use to make like shingles, like wooden shingles. I don't know if you ever seen somebody use a froe and they hold the back of it, they hit it, and then they make shingles out of
cedar shakes.
Yeah,
is what they're called.
These are interesting.
Ross will know what this is. What is a gimlet?
Ooh, I know this.
It's the part.
Go ahead.
It's the part of the turkey that you put in the gravy on Thanksgiving that nobody wants.
That's giblets. No, it is not
the gin and lime cocktail served over ice.
Also, it's not what I'm looking for.
Oh, I was thinking the gin and lime cocktail. I do know what that is.
It is. I'm just going to give it to you. It is a small hand tool with a screw tip used for boring holes, especially in woodwork and carpentry. I looked it up. It's interesting looking. All right.
I still think I'm right. I'm gonna give myself credit for that one.
Yeah.
What's a slick? S-L-I-C-K.
I know this one too.
Is it a type of lubricant? Is it a fictional spy gadget? Is it a large chisel used for fine paring work and timber framing? Or it is a decorative finish on wood?
Is this me?
Yes.
I have no idea.
Big old chisel.
Yes.
Correct.
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That is a slick used for timber framers.
Yeah, timber framing chisel.
Yes, it's for smoothing and fitting joints. We know what a spoke shave is. We know what a draw knife is. How about this one? Last one.
For Lee.
For Lee.
Worth 10 points.
Which tool,
I hope it's about turkey.
Tool is known as a cranberry sauce. A brace. A brace. Is it a support structure, a hand tool used with auger bits, a fictional character, or a type of clamp? Spelled with a capital B, brace.
I'm gonna go with the last one.
A type of clamp?
Yeah.
No, it is actually a hand tool used with auger bits for drilling holes. It's the crank handle. It's called a brace.
Oh, I should have known that. I think that's actually in Rex Kruger's Everyday Woodworking.
What would you? So you know that thing that you put in your workbench hole.
In me.
You know the thing that you put. Yeah, well, you can't say bench dog.
Oh, sorry.
It's a hold fast.
That's correct.
Bird's mouth chisel was another one we had. That's for V-shaped, and then router plane. I think you guys know what that is. So explain what a router plane is, Ross.
Well, hold on. Before we get to that, I do have to declare the winner by a landslide is Mush.
Yes.
Woo!
Well done. So a router plane.
He mushed the competition.
He did. A router plane is literally a two-handed plane that is made for cleaning up rabbits or dados or any kind of a routing like you would think of a power router. This one does it by hand. You can drop the depth of the blade and it cuts along a flat surface and just cleans everything out at a smooth.
Basically, it's like a hand plane going sideways, and it's got like a little thing. Yeah, there you go, a brace. My dad had one of those.
Yeah, for those kids.
Funny that,
Lee found
Rex
it in his book,
comes
holding it up.
So, Lee, strangely enough, I have one of those literally in the other room. I have one on the wall and an antique hand clamp or an antique clamp as well. I didn't know that was the name of it, but I have one of those on my wall.
I'm just waiting for Rex not to be friends with him anymore. It's okay.
Well, that was all
I lose friends all the time. Every day I lose friends.
My little tidbits and trivia for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and you guys did very well.
Was fun.
Thank you for participating.
Yes, I'm Mitch, you got one more for me and Ross to see who can answer it first?
I certainly do. Which tool is called a beating tool?
The beating tool. Done.
That is correct.
Well done.
That is correct.
Winner.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, that's basically it. It's a tool for creating decorative grooves or beads, so it's a beating tool.
Oh, I thought it was Colton's right hand. Zing. So
friendship bracelets or like beads on a piece of wood?
Yes. We'll go with that.
Beads. Can you say that PG-13?
No, you can't.
No.
Definitely.
Well, somebody's got to make them.
Down. Yeah, that is true.
And you do use the tool to do it.
Okay.
I follow on some of your history stuff. So two interesting pieces. The Wilkesboro is like 45 minutes away from where we are. When you were talking about Lowe's. And,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so that's like Wilkesboro is like right in our wheelhouse, and Lowe's is very much a North Carolina business.
But nobody asked you. Just kidding.
Ouch.
No.
Ouch.
So, does it like people know about it in the town? That's where it started?
Oh,
I don't think a lot of people know that Lowe's is like very much a North Carolina business.
I thought you were going to ask if people in town know what Lowe's is, and I was like, I'm pretty sure they know what that is.
You know, like it's like it all like Publix, like that started in Florida.
Yeah.
And then Arthur Blank, is that the guy that eventually owned the Falcons?
It is.
You know?
It is. The one and the same.
That's interesting. Like that was, I'm not like a ginormous football guy, but I did not know that he had the roots in kind of Home Depot and home improvement.
He made his money at Home Depot, and he became a billionaire, and he bought the Atlanta Falcons.
Does anybody know what I didn't look up is they got this investor guy.
Yes.
Is the Ken Ligon? Ligon? Does anybody know who he is? Ligon? No.
Is he the guy from North Korea?
Yeah, it's his brother. Yeah.
Okay.
He must have just been a rich guy, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, that's all I got.
So, gentlemen, normally we would have 4 or 5 other segments, but I know it's a school night for you guys, and you got things you got to do in the morning. So we typically wrap up an episode here by talking about a snugget. And if you're not familiar, for us, that is either a snipe, which is something that you're just got to get off your chest. I'm pissed about it. Or a nugget, which would be a piece of information you can share to all the young woodworkers and makers out there. Or if you could talk to yourself when you started this journey way back when with all the knowledge you have now, what would you say? So it doesn't have to be something. If you guys need a second, we can share ours and come back to you. But we got a jingle to go along with it, too. So let's do that. Colton, you seem like a gentleman who's ready to share some snuggets. You got anything for us?
You seem like a bad judge of character.
Yes, sir.
I need to pass for a second.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I will share one then. I don't have a snipe this week, but I do have a nugget. And the last time I was on, I shared that if you have to rattle can, spray paint anything, spend the extra money, and obviously get automotive grade spray paints. They work extremely well. They're so much cleaner and so much more even as far as the paint finish. The finishes also go along that same level, where normally on a guitar you'd have to put down 14 or 15 layers of whatever the finish would be, the clear coat. With the automotive stuff, you only have to put down like 2 because it goes on much thicker and much more even. But my nugget to everybody on that point is you do have to wait at least 48 hours for it to fully cure. And I was
bubble up.
No, I was overzealous and was like, this is dry to the touch. After 24 hours of drying, I'm going to assemble this guitar. And now I permanently have my fingerprints in the finish because as I press down to do things, I have thumbprints and fingerprints at different points. And I'm like, you know what? That's my own stupidity. I earned this one. So if you're ever going to use whatever the finish is, give it probably 72 hours of drying time to fully cure, unless you can put it into UV light or something to expedite that finish. So, and that curing.
Very good.
Right on.
Very good.
Oh, I thought of mine. So I'm building a set of cabinets right now, and I'm doing it all on the CNC. I'm using the Inventables cabinet maker software, right? And kind of testing it out. And I would do the doors differently if I went back, but they're doing like a faux, like
the Vietnamese soup?
No.
Oh.
It's a faux shaker style, right? So it's just like a, shaker style. It has like the big frame around the edge and like a little plywood piece in the middle. I'm cutting plywood to look like that, right? And it just cuts it in. And I did it with a 1/4-inch bit, right? 1/4-inch downcut bit.
How long did that take to cut out that entire center panel? Not
that long. No, with the X-Carve Pro, it's running through that plywood.
Okay.
Like that was the longest cut was the doors, maybe 20 minutes a door.
Okay.
It's not bad.
But yeah, but in hindsight, if I was going to go with this faux style, I would have cut it a little bit deeper and then either put like a veneer or even like a 1/8-inch piece of plywood, right? Instead, what I did, because I'm painting it all white, I took wood filler, right? And I put it in that middle part where there's like this cut down plywood. You can imagine where that would get sketchy, right? And that took a while to lay it down and sand it. But my nugget is the type of wood fillers I was using. The whole time I was just thinking about Goodfilla that Ross talked about so much, but I was on a time crunch. I didn't have time. I just had time for a Lowe's run, and I went with the Minwax. So like the Minwax, like the natural wood fillers that are like stainable, they're too grainy for this stuff.
Yes.
Right.
And the one that worked the best was the colored, there's a white one and it's like creamier and has like a way better texture. You can kind of build it up a lot better and then sand it down a lot better. And so I like the Minwax white color.
So strangely enough, if you have to do that again and you're just putting down a thin coat that you are going to then paint over, especially like a solid color, you can either use drywall mud and it gets like super, because you're going to do it fairly thin. You can do it a slightly thicker layer and get it very, very smooth. Or Bondo works extremely well to just kind of coat things over. If you're not worried about seeing the wood grain, don't worry about spending the time to get something that's going to be transparent. Just put on Bondo.
I considered the mud, but I figured I might have to prime it first if I was going to do the mud.
Yeah.
MH Ready Patch is another product that Durham's water putty, but the MH Ready Patch you can buy. Rust-Oleum bought them a while back.
Yeah.
And it's an interior, exterior, just like all around filler. It'll actually take stain, as it turns out.
Really?
After it's dry. But we use that for everything. I've been using it for years and years and years for everything from nail holes to anything. If it's a large hole, it's going to take a while to dry, but it's like a black can with orange letters. Rust-Oleum bottom, and the problem is with it is that like if you have like a really thick area, it's going to take a while. But you can take a heat gun to it and dry it, and you can sand it. It's pretty good stuff. That's just what's readily available.
Who wants to go next? Who's got another nugget or snipe?
I mean, so as you were introducing this to us, I was thinking, like, what's been bugging me? Something that I think has already been solved, but I can complain about how it used to be. We do a lot of epoxy at our school. And so the turtle boat stuff, I mean, love them. They have awesome stuff. And those stupid foil things at the top of the jugs that you have to either cut through and then your neck gets sticky or just hope that it rips off. They don't have those anymore. I think they're switching over to like the plastic milk jug things where you just peel it off. And then,
really?
Oh, yeah. So I haven't gotten one yet. And I'm not sure if it's all the lines or I know there was one specific product that was using it, but I just hope it is kind of trickling out to everything.
That's genius. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right?
Yeah. Well, luckily I'm using like the utility knife for most everything, so I toss those blades out quick. But if you're using your pocket knife, it's going to get nasty.
So then that leads into my nugget. The best upgrade I've done to our epoxy station was getting crocodile claws. They are at Workbench 2 years ago, and it's awesome. It's good for everything and laser residue. When I do whip out my knife and I just got to pop that foil tab off, just hit it with a little crocodile cloth, and then use the rest of the crocodile cloth to clean up all the crap that the kids have left out and is half cured or not cured. It's been a really good asset to our epoxy setup.
I love that they now carry those in like bulk at Home Depot. Like there's like 600 of those things in a pack. It's awesome.
And a variety of textures and flavors isn't the right word, but you know.
I mean, I don't know.
They taste delicious.
If you're eating those, we need to talk.
Yeah. How about you, Lee? What do you got?
Yeah, so I don't really have a lot of gripes right now. I'm pretty happy hanging out with you guys. But one thing that I've been kind of chewing on through this conversation is the buy local piece. As we went into like the Lowe's and the Home Depot, and Mush and I are blessed to have Klutz Lumber right down the road, and it's literally 100-year-old lumber yard. And if you buy a piece of a piece of pine from there, it's straight and it's perfect. And then you go to Lowe's and it looks like a corkscrew. And nothing about my good friends at Lowe's, but it's just not the same quality. Oh, no. And I was talking to somebody today and I was like, you might spend an additional quarter per board foot, buying local and finding that, that mill or that lumber yard that is going to have it. But gosh, it's worth it. Like for the stories of those people and for just being able to connect with local business. And also
the amount of time saving. Like if you don't have to mill that board and you can literally just glue it up and you're ready to go as soon as you get back to your shop, that's time saving and it's worth the extra quarter.
Right. Yeah. It's awesome because Mush and I have developed a relationship with these people. Again, we went to their 100th birthday party last summer, and they had banana pudding and cheer wine and pork barbecue, and it was like a good old North Carolina 100th birthday party. And they just bought the huge like 48 by 48 Aeon laser. And so that laser's sitting in a 100-year-old lumber yard. And he just got into the exotics. So he's got bloodwood and padauk and canary and like all of the beautiful woods and stuff like that. And it's a treat to just be able to go buy lumber from him and go buy things. So like, I guess, that's my piece is buy local and, don't worry about the box stores because they got plenty of money, but find somebody in your neighborhood to go support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really cool that they have pine too. Like maybe I'm looking in the wrong places, but I was trying to source like some good pine and I couldn't find it anywhere except for box stores around Houston. Like all the lumber places I love, they're just doing like your nicer hardwoods.
So that's interesting. I thought you were being snarky for a second.
No. Canary and pine.
Canary and pine. But the reason for that is they started off as like a manufacturing yard, like where you could get like your concrete and your just like building materials. And then just in the last like 30 years, he's gone to like getting into the cool stuff, the live edge slabs and the ambrosia maple and like all of those things, the rainbow poplar, and you can get anything there, including, you need pine or you need birch or you need like a sheets of plywood. Like we can get everything at Klutz, and it's a really nice gift to have them right down the road.
Cool. That's good to know. I need to do some more looking then. Like, I need to find a place like that.
Absolutely.
Jess, what do you got?
I don't really have a very good nugget compared to these guys, but my nugget is, and this has just been from working on so many projects lately and things going wrong. Think about what's coming next. Think about where it's going to be when it's final. Because how many times have you done like something and then like that trim didn't fit because you didn't allow that space because it's 3/4 thick or that little tile or whatever, or the door's going to open and it hits this thing when you open it. Nobody thought about it until it was actually in. Try to really think ahead. That's when the computer stuff, like you guys especially deal with. If you just draw it first, even though it takes extra time, you'll be shocked. I am shocked sometimes on how much like smaller I'll have to make something in order for it to actually fit, because after you add this to it and add that to it and this piece of trim's going in there, it was a lot smaller project than I even thought it was going to be, so that it all looks finished and purposeful and so on and so forth. So try to think ahead, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
That's my nugget.
Well, gentlemen, I want to say first and foremost, thank you for coming on. It is an honor and a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Thanks for having us.
So great to see you again. I feel like I only get to see you when I'm at Workbench Con, so it's great to see you guys again. Being that Leigh had to do a lot of talking earlier, I'll let Mush answer this. If anybody wanted to follow up on the Storytellers Tavern or any of the things you guys are doing, where should they find you?
Yeah, so the podcast is at sttavernpod.com or Instagram, sttavernpod, or just search Storytellers Tavern. It's taverns or tellers with an S on your favorite podcast platform. It should be there, and if it's not, give me a holler. If you want to give me a holler, I'm on Instagram at makermush, makermush.com. I'm not doing a lot of tweeting or blue skying or anything right now. It's just mostly pictures of stuff I'm working on when I have the mind to add that in there.
Okay.
Yeah, and Leigh.
So, Leigh, if people wanted to follow up with you and figure out where you're at, how do they do that?
So you can find me on Instagram at the Tinker Teacher, and if you go there, you'll see a lot of the stuff that we do with kids. You won't see a lot of pictures of kids just because the nature of education. You won't see the kids actually working on stuff, but you'll see a lot of the projects and things, which is pretty fun from a maker ed angle. And the important thing, guys, is I want you to come visit us in North Carolina. I think all three of you should get in a Volkswagen bus and come together. I think Colt should drive.
Oh, God.
And right? Just because I'd like to hear stories from the road. And you guys should come here and hang out with us in Charlotte. Charlotte's a cool vibe. And we can go to Klutz Lumber. We can drink Cheerwine. We can go to North Wilkesboro and learn more about Lowe's. We can do all the things. So get your friends over and come to North Carolina.
That'd be so much fun. A beater on the bench, Scooby-Doo van going across.
You're definitely shagging.
That would be awesome.
My wife always wanted to go to Charlotte, actually, as a matter of fact. So
it's a cool town.
Well, I think we're going to name our daughter Charlotte too. That's kind of cool. So Charlotte.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We appreciate y'all's passion.
Yeah,
dude, absolutely. And a trip up to North Carolina. I mean, don't tempt me with a good time. That sounds awesome. I would do it in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
It's funny because I had a class at my shop. We tried to do it for a little while, to help kind of just pay the bills. And I love teaching the class. But I've taught every employee that's ever worked for me. A lot of them come with no skills whatsoever, and I have to start from the basics of, joining a piece of wood. And I loved it, and it really got to the point where I thought about, because there's some colleges here that asked me to, like maybe I'd want to apply or whatever, technical colleges. They don't pay very much, unfortunately. I couldn't quite live off of that, but I definitely think about it in my retirement. Then that I might be something that I would do is become a wood shop teacher or something like that. So I love you guys' passion. I can definitely hear it in your voices and your stories.
Yeah. Keep doing what you're doing.
That, man. Dude, y'all. Yeah, absolutely. It's a different mission.
Absolutely. Yeah. So once again, thank you both for coming on. This was awesome. And to all the listeners out there, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button wherever you're listening to this podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in this week. We hope you enjoyed every second of this episode. If you didn't, please send all your complaints to our over-the-road love song singing legal representation at Weiland & Company Law Partners, where the motto is, where are you going for tomorrow? Where are you going for the mask I found? And I feel when the dog begins to smell her, will she smell alone? And my point is, drugs are bad, kids. So for Jess, Colton, and Ross, this has been the Beat Around the Bench podcast, and we will catch you all next time.
See ya.
Woo!